Hello and welcome to another episode of the Learn It All podcast. We are Damon, Lembi, and Darren, Bridgett, and we are joined today by a very special guest, Iky Chan. Here's the thing. These days, we're all about learning and growth here, but something that doesn't get talked about enough is how do you learn and how do you learn quickly in this super fast world that we're all living in? These are skills that you have to really develop. Iky is an expert in this topic, along with a bunch of other topics. Iky, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Darren. Thank you, Damon. My honor to be here.
We feel the same. So let me mention a few of the highlights from your bio, and then we'll just get right into it. You have 3 degrees in engineering. You perfected learning fast and effectively in diverse fields like engineering, technology, and visual design, speed coaching. You also do stand-up comedy and cartooning, and you have enabled thousands of entrepreneurs and highly skilled corporate professionals in engineering and technology. And now you have graced us with your presence on our show. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Iky, it's great to meet you. I enjoyed talking to you backstage, and we're going to get into rapid learning. And for you, it started off really early, right? So I think you were just starting high school and you moved from Hong Kong to United States. And I know you knew English, but you're learning that. So what was that experience like for you?
I thought I knew English. So Hong Kong was a British colony. I thought English was all English. I was so wrong. As soon as I stepped my foot into this country, United States of America, people talk different. They talk really fast. And my English proficiency in Hong Kong was just reading and writing. I didn't have to speak it. I listened to Hong Kong teacher teaching English who never set their foot into the UK. So you have to understand. So that's the level of English I was used to. So then I figured out, people talk differently because they have emphasis on different word or in the sentence or even spelled differently, right? So now I spell color without you. Think about that. I spell harbor without you, right? So I teach my Britishness so to try to brand into this country so people don't know I'm British. So it's really hard. And there was no teacher. I got dropped into a public high school in this country. Just think about that. Almost nobody looked like me. And I got made fun of. The funny thing is, I didn't even know I was being made fun of. I couldn't understand. I just remember one day I was in class, the whole class circled around me and look at me and then laugh at me. I didn't even know why they were laughing at me. I just remember multiple people just said, just kidding. So I got a hint. When people say something, I know they meant it if they say, just kidding.
So what was it like? You're coming over from Hong Kong to America, British English. When you first got here and you realized things were different, how did that make you feel? Were you like super anxious, or did you just say, you know what? This isn't what I was expecting, but I'm going to jump in and figure out how to make it work?
Figure out how to make it work because not working is not an option. If you hear my life story, it's repeated. It's not because I'm more talented, I'm smarter, I'm tougher. None of that. Because not succeeding is not an option. So the only option is to succeed. And how to succeed is to learn whatever you can as fast as you can to attain the result you want to achieve. So that's always my principle in life.
Where did that mindset come from that failure was never going to be an option for you?
My mom, I was the oldest in the family. Neither my parents graduated high school. So that's shocking. Back in the days in Hong Kong, it cost money to go to school. I believe it's similar in this country. They were very smart people. They just didn't get the education. So early on, my parents knew, very typical the Asian parent, they wanted 3 of us, me and my 2 sisters, to graduate from college. So that was a requirement. How did we get that? They didn't know. So when I was 6 years old, my parents sat me down, looked at me in the eyes. I thought I was in trouble. No, I was not in trouble. They told me, you're going to the United States to be highly educated and get a great job and be very successful, which means make a lot of money. So to me, it was not an option. I was told that this is my life.
So you got here, Iky, and you came on your own. You're like 16 years old or something. You're a teenager.
Yes, came on my own and cultural shock. I was so disoriented. There was no word to describe it. Almost everything from Hong Kong and this country, almost complete opposite. People drove in a different side of the world. Think about that. Right? Just think about that notion. I did look the correct way or I get hit, right, by a bus. It'd be funny. So the way I learn is I try my best, the fastest to orient myself so I won't be imbalanced. Because when you get dropped into a situation, like you don't know what's going on, you know the least, you have a lot of barrier to even get even and to sit in the room or in the classroom. You just have to be there and just keep at it. I have no way to put it. You just show up every day and hope the next day you understand more English.
So part of it is for you, it's just the pressure, this pressure cooker of having to learn very quickly. And then you've applied this since then in terms of how you pivoted into an engineering career because you wanted to do design to start off with. What are the lessons that our viewers can take away or the people that you coach in your trainings when it comes to learning quickly?
Learning quickly, I would say it is a process. Learning is a process. Everyone has a different learning process. So do not take other people's process and blindly apply to yourself. Everyone learn differently. Even if I'm a visual learner, a lot of my friends are visual learner, we still learn differently. I would say know yourself really well. Like, how do you learn? Like to me, I can describe my process. Now, when I learn a brand new skill, let's say I go back to a handful of years ago, stand-up comedy, right? Or cartooning. I have to set an intention. Why am I learning this? What's that for? So that's the motivation. That has to be intrinsic. It cannot be someone pay me, like, you just need to learn stand-up comedy. I'm like, get out of here. No way. I can't. It has to be come from yourself, from within. So once I set an intention, I had to figure out how good do I want to get? Do I want to be like a full-blown stand-up comedian every night? I tour the road, or I just want that skill and see what it is like. Usually I would be like, I'm open-minded. I just want to see what it is because I know nothing about it. So I look back at my learning journey. Whenever I come in with a beginner's mind, I learn the most because I have no expectation. I don't even know what that thing is. So I just go in and again, my naiveness get me into a lot of trouble because I don't even know what I'm getting myself into. My naiveness to convince a university to give me 2 master degree in engineering in 2 years. So they gave me a fellowship for chemical engineering. So my undergrad degree is chemical engineering. I wanted to do software engineering. And it turns out there's no research money. I didn't know until I talked to them because I tried to sell them the idea. Hey, how about you add the software engineering to my chemical engineering? And they're like, there's no money. There's no research. I'm like, okay. So what's the closest? So I have a lot of friends in electrical engineering. They end up being software engineers. And I'm like, what about electrical engineering? I'm like, oh, sure, that will work. I have no idea how it'll work. They just say, just show up, talk to an advisor. Whoever agree, then you do a thesis for chemical and electrical. And my naiveness urged me to drive a U-Haul cross state and show up. That's what happened. Seriously. I didn't even think about, with someone saying, no, it's not an option. I'm going to knock on every door until an electrical engineering advisor say yes. That's how determined I was. And I knock on 2 doors. They both say yes. I pick one.
So if I've got this right, Damon, I know you had a question, but let me just sum up and then you take your question, Damon. Your part of your formula is for learning is motivation. Got to have a clear motivation, beginner's mind and naiveness. In that sense, that's how you approach it. Like that can be a positive. You approach it without any big preconceived notions. No is not an option. And then the last one is do what your parents tell you, which is the one I'm going to go tell my kids and grandkids. That's the most.
Yes, yeah, I'm a parent now. I would definitely quote you on that one.
Yeah, that's key to learning. Do what your parents tell you. Okay, but those are some interesting and a little bit surprising sometimes for the advice that you get. So thank you.
So Iky, a lot of people don't have that willingness to just jump in and try. right? They immediately go to the negative. Oh, what happens if I fail? What happens if I make a mistake and I fall flat on my face? What advice would you give for them to try to become more naive and maybe come in with a blank slate and just realize that, hey, let's just see what happens?
So, two things. First, tame our ego. If you really want to learn, ego has no place. Egos want to look good. When you learn, when you become the weakest person in class, automatically you're not going to look the best. If you don't mind looking the worst, nothing is fearful. Think about that. I had nothing to lose when I show up in my class in electrical engineering. I was completely shocked. I was the only female student. I didn't understand anything. I understood English. I did not understand the language of electrical engineering. And I had to stick it out. I was invisible in class. I keep showing up. And guess what? After a month, I understood the language. I got A. I get an A. It was a review for the rest of the class. They knew the material already. I knew nothing. I didn't care if I looked bad. I already looked bad. They didn't think of anything about me. They didn't expect anything about me. And then the second thing is, we probably hear this many times out there. Wherever we spend our energy, it expands. So why would I want to expand my energy to think about all the scenario I'm going to fail? I'm going to channel that energy to expand on how much fun I'm going to get, how silly I will look, because I already look bad, right? I'm the silliest person in class, always. And I'm going to have fun with it. I'm going to get what I want out of it because I'm trying to learn something. I have nothing to lose. I already know nothing. Think about that. How can you not know less than nothing? I start with nothing. I can always gain something.
That's incredible. I wish that I could go back and pour all of that attitude into me when I began my acting career, because I would have done so much better. And I bet, Damon, in some ways you probably say with your baseball career.
I was just honestly, I was just feeling the same way, right? Growing up for me, I had it pretty easy early on, just from the sense that I was the best player on the team. I was the best player in the league. But then you get to a level in college where everybody was the best at it, right? And I was afraid to fail. I was afraid to fail because it wasn't something that was new for me. And if I could just tell my younger self, who cares? What's the worst thing that could happen? And just go for it back then, it would have relieved a lot of anxiety and would have been awesome.
And that's the beauty of going to engineering school. Being smart is the entry ticket. Being smart is the entry ticket. So because I went to engineering school, I worked many years in engineering, high tech. I wasn't the smartest. Surprise. My ego got hurt. I have very little ego by now. So what can I do to add value? What can I bring to the table? It's not my intelligence because it's not going to work. There are lots of smart people already.
Do you have any examples that you could share of, okay, everybody's smart. So that's just taken off the table, right? I mean, that's just entry stakes. You're in it, right? So can you give us an example of something that you were going to try to set yourself apart, or that you actually did try that you did?
I'm going to touch on this. I don't want to play victim. I'm going to say it. I am an Asian woman in the United States. I spent a lot of years in my corporate career in tech and engineering. So you can automatically see how few women in the field and color women as well. So I'm aware that I'm a triple whammy, color woman in tech and engineering. So having that, I choose not to focus on that. I want to get the respect from my peers, mostly guys. I want them to treat me as one of them. So I have to be conscious about what I say, how I carry myself. My gift is being funny. I'm pretty funny. I got it from my mother because she and I look at the world very differently. So people like us, we think the world is funny because everything is different, right? So I use my humor to people trust me more, like me more. I know I cannot have everybody like me. And I always say I use it for people who, for whatever reason, they just don't like me. I want them to dislike me less. So I use humor. I do preparation very intense. People would not know for a like 10 minutes presentation I did in corporate, I would spend hours. Sometimes it's 30x, like 30 times the actual time of my delivery. They have no idea because I have a long commute. I'll be rehearsing in my head when I'm driving. So that's 2 hours a day, right? Back and forth, an hour each. So intense preparation.
I love that you bring that up because one of the themes that we're talking about today is rapid learning. And really what you're saying though is you for you it's not rapid learning, it's over preparation, which helps get you there, right? Darren and I were talking about this and I actually was joking with you over email that you've probably watched more of our episodes preparing than many of our guests. You learn fast, but I think really the key for our audience and for me is over preparing and jumping in. For instance, like when I first started doing podcasts and there was a podcast guest, and Darren will tell you this, I just jumped in and did as many as I could and just over prepared, right? And then just learned from the failure, asked questions, got feedback. And I eventually felt like you, Ike, is I'm going to get better at this. I believed in myself enough to know that I'm going to get better at this at some point. It may not happen overnight, but I knew I would do it. And so I think that that's great that you over prepare, which actually leads you to rapid learning, right?
Yes, yes. Also be very intentional. And I want to touch base on maybe in your audience, want to be a leader someday, they're in corporate or they want to get to the next level. In my own experience in corporate, no one hand me a roadmap on a silver platter. Hey, IT, if you want to be a leader, guess what? This is what you need to learn. Communication, be concise because I was in engineering and tech. So you can't be rambling on. What else? Get to the point and get people to align. Even people don't report to you. There are lots of people did not report to me. What else? Oh, presentation skill. Not just the contents, but the design. Make sure it's pleasing. People can read, right? How many deck do people see in corporate, especially in engineering? For crying out loud. Font size of 6. How many? A complicated diagram, you need a magnifying glass to see, and it's completely boring. So you can't do that. So no one taught me how to do all of these things. Nobody. Like how to be a manager, right? So I got in a job, another naiveness, right? So my first manager job was a senior manager. So I skipped the manager route and go straight to senior.
Wait a second. You're saying your first job in leadership, you went right to senior management?
I skip a lot. If you know my pattern, I skip things around. I have no patience. I can't just go 1, 2, 3 because I'm already behind. I don't have 10 years to catch up. And then the funny thing is the first day I almost quit at lunch. So the welcome lunch with my team and my boss. I'm like, how come we're missing like a person? Oh, the person who interviewed me already quit. But between I interviewed for the job and I show up. And then another bad news. The boss told me, oh, this team member, a bus factor of 1, meaning if one person on your team got hit by a bus, the whole team cannot function. Oh, he's taking early retirement. So I'm like, okay. And then what else? Oh, IT, you need to hire 3 people. I'm like, oh my God, I never hired. Actually, I never interviewed anyone. Did he not know that? He never asked me. Okay, my naiveness once again got me into trouble.
But it's a fascinating story. It's such a fascinating story. I want to come back and tie some of this into learning, but before we get there, because you're talking about management, you have a really interesting story about leadership too, where you were talking about being in charge of this team that other people thought was not a good team, and you saw another side of this. Yeah. Can you talk about? I just thought it was such a great story of, again, you approach it with a blank slate and you saw something that other people didn't see.
Yes. So that was my second team before I became a manager. So I was a agile transformation coach, technical project manager. So I was not a people manager. Because I did such a great job with my first team, my executive team moved me to a different group. And they told me this is like a career move, but I didn't know. So I just say yes. And it turns out it was one of the worst 33 development team They never deliver anything for many months. I didn't know until I showed up. It was too late to say no unless I quit. And then I just look at the team member. They are great people. They are very smart. They work really hard. I'm like, why can they not deliver anything? There got to be something wrong with the process. These people are good people. And then it's the process. So we design the process. I know it's lame, but it is. It's not the people, it's the process. It's a system issue. It's not the people issue.
I think that's great because a lot of times when you come into a leadership position like that and you're working with a team or you're put in front of a team that has no success and fails, the easy thing to do is just eliminate everybody and start from scratch. So, how are you able to take a step back and really look at the team members that you had and even to a degree have enough belief in them to want to make it work?
So back to my thing, it had to work because I was in it. The only option is for me to quit the job. I was not ready to quit the job.
But you could have replaced the team, right? Couldn't you have got rid of them and bring up?
I could not, I had no authority. I had no people authority. I was dropped into this situation. My job was to turn the team around so they could deliver. And they were highly technical. I had a buzz factor of 1 everywhere, meaning I have specialists, 5 of them on the team. We can't do another person's job.
So what seems to be like part of your secret sauce is you have a kind of a unique combination of engineering and creativity. Like you've said that you were an artist from like the time you were like 2 or 3, but then you found out when you were taking an engineering class that you're actually really good at that. But it's the combination of those two. And this isn't true. It's been debunked, like the left brain and the right brain. But in a sense, that's what we're talking about here.
I think, like for engineering folks, one side of the brain very analytical, I would advise them to go to not anything of objective learning. The science is very black and white. So engineers are being misunderstood. They are being labeled. They're all black and white. We went to school, it's all black and white. Okay, come on. Math is either right or wrong. So that's how we are trained. So once we get to work outside of school, that's how we think. That's how we were trained to think. I would say for those folks, maybe go to the extreme, go to the subjective learning. Like art, there's no right or wrong. It's totally subjective. To train that side of the brain and have fun and don't forget about constraint or assumptions. So go the extreme. And then for maybe artists, if they want to think more logically, they want to have an analytical mind, I don't know, go to engineering or take some scientific course. It's all about training your brain and how to think.
I love that. It doesn't need to be either or. It's both. Like actually actively encourage both. And that's what's going to make you better, which is, I'm wondering if that's how you got into humor. You said earlier that you needed a good motivation to learn. And what motivated you to learn comedy?
So I have a good friend. His name is Mark Levy. As I interacted with him, he saw something in me. So I always love when I meet people, they see something in me that I don't see. And he loved my sense of humor. And he said, Iky, you have to learn stand-up comedy. Because at that time, I already learned cartooning. So he's seen my cartoon. Lots of them I never published, but I showed them to him and he loved them. He just thought it would be good for me to learn another form, stand-up comedy. And also, he wanted me to beef up my writing. My naiveness got me into trouble yet again. Because he sincerely believed in me more than I believe in myself. After he talked to me, I just Googled what a stand-up comedy school in my area. And I cleared with my family because I had to disappear like 6 weekends, like 6 consecutive. So then they're like, okay, you can be gone for 6 weekends. So then I'm like, okay, I sign up. And then when I show up the first day in class, I was like, what is this thing here? And then I have to perform in order to graduate from this class. So anyway, so it is hilarious, completely hilarious. And then you know what I find out? People talk about stage fright and anxiety attack. So I experienced almost my first anxiety attack in my stand-up comedy class. Almost. I tamed it because I could not, because I was about to get on stage with my quarterly baked jokes, not even half baked. As a perfectionist, and you want to prepare everything, when you're forced to tell jokes that is only quarterly baked, it's nerve-wracking. But it was my turn.
So how'd you do it? How'd you do it? I go to comedy shows and I have so much respect for the comedians up there because to me, that looks like the most miserable possible career because so I guess my question is, how did you do it? And what was it like for you the first time you stepped on stage outside of class?
So in class was more intimidating. If you're in any profession, like either professional speakers or any kind of profession, if you have your peers in the audience judging you, it's way worse than an average crowd. So that's what I had, okay? And my teacher and my peer. So I had to just do my best because I rehearsed some quarterly baked joke during my drive to class. I didn't remember a thing. I would just say, okay, let's just tell some stories. I don't know if it's funny. Maybe I look so funny, they're gonna laugh. I just want to laugh. I don't care, right? I don't care I look bad. I just want them to laugh. And they laugh. But that was not the final joke I performed. And it turns out the 11th hour, like 2 hours before 1 hour before I had to leave my house, drive myself to the place before I could get on stage, I finalized my joke. It was a 5-minute set. So it wasn't like a one-liner. 5 whopping minutes. And I never remember any script because I just hate remembering word by word. Words are not the natural thing. How I think in ideas as an artist. So words are not the thing I use. It's not the best medium, but in stand-up comedy, words is the only thing you have, right? Spoken word. And then I had to memorize it before the show. So I printed out a few pieces of paper along in my car, and it is a restaurant next to the comedy place. So I was alone. I told the waitress, don't disrupt me. I need to recite this thing. I'll eat, I'll be here, but I'll leave, I'll give you good tips. But just leave me alone. I'm in my song. Okay? I'm in my song. Don't let other people sit next to me. And then when I walk in, I just put the paper in my pocket because I have to have a safety net in case I have something happened to my brain. I can kindly pull up the paper and read word by word. So that's my safety net, always a plan B. And then it turns out I didn't need it because I was able to memorize everything because I memorized word by word. I was able to improv on stage based on what people wanted from me.
Darren, when you were acting, did you take a similar process to that?
It's interesting when you're acting. I've done plays, the full-length plays with just 2 people, or Hamlet or something, where you really have to memorize a lot. But you can't. The way you memorize is very important. But in that case, you're memorizing what your intention is, and you also memorize by where you are. Recent research is showing that actually a lot of memory is triggered by where you are in space and what you're around. So when you're on stage in a play, you block the play, and when you walk over to the couch a certain way, it triggers what you're supposed to say next. But if you remember it like words by rote, you can't act anymore because you're not acting the intention of what you want. So in a way, you try to memorize without memorizing. But it's always the first question people have for me as an actor. How do you memorize all those words? At the end of the day, I don't know. You just practice a lot and know what it is that you want to say.
And then the art of stand-up comedy is actually not the telling the joke, it's the writing. Tell the joke with your trusted friend and then a small crowd and test it. It falls flat and then you have to figure out what went wrong. Why did nobody laugh? No one will tell you. That's the bad part. You have to figure it out and try again until it lands. So it is completely brutal.
And did you figure that process out? Did you figure that process out on your own through trial and error, or is that something that they taught you in the acting class.
Yeah, I forgot about what I did. It was nerve-wracking. So the Tuesday night before the Sunday event, my performance, my friend somehow booked a open mic. So I had to drive 1 hour at night to get there. At the time, my script was 90% there, but I never performed out of my car. So I just drove there. Again, I couldn't get out of my car. I couldn't remember everything. I was literally having another nervous breakdown coming. And I called my friend, who I could see inside the place, the club. I said, I can't get out of my car because I'm very nervous. I can't remember a thing. And then he said, okay, don't worry. They got a mess up. So we're not performing in 10 minutes. We have another hour. I said, thank God, hour. So I was in my car rehearsing, trying to memorize the whole thing. So when I show up, good that there was like good and bad. There was only one person in the audience. Okay. And my two friends, we all had to perform. So we were like rehearsing. And it's bad about stand-up comedy. People always say the bigger the crowd, the better. When you have an audience of 3, this is not a good sign. I don't care if you're Seinfeld. It's not going to be good. So that was my first experience. So that was my final test in front of strangers.
You seem to be very willing to throw yourself in challenging situations.
I had no choice. I had a performance coming up on Sunday. And if someone say, you can show up and test, I show up and test on a Tuesday night.
So what did you learn from stand-up comedy and going through this process that's helped you, which I want to talk about next, is your coaching business, but just how do you translate this great experience of just sticking your neck out there in stand-up comedy is in either other work experience or with what you're doing now in coaching?
I would say stand-up comedy is, to me, is the highest level of writing. Any extra word, the whole joke will break down. You have to be very precise and concise. So that helped me in my thinking. That helped me in my communication to be more intentional. That helps me in my cartooning. I focus on single panel cartoon, like the New Yorker style. It's just a one-liner. Sometimes there's no line. It helped me in everything I do. When I help my keynote speakers with their presentation, if they have slides that, it helped me to help them make their idea more concise. And coaching, it helped me to be more intentional with spoken word to help them think deeply. So everything is very concise and very intentional. I would say that the stand-up comedy, writing, and then performance now, the stand-up comedy world, they say you just add 5 minutes, right? So I've done the 5 minutes of stand-up comedy. It ended up to be 7 minutes. You get people laugh. I improv. So it's a good thing. You don't want it to be 5 minutes. You want it to be long because people laugh. So a 5 minutes become a 7 minutes. The next one is add another 5 minutes. They always say. So the next one is 10. The next one is 15. Before I know it, I have a 1 hour thing. But you don't go from 5 minutes to 1 hour.
You were talking about something that you want to also do because you do the coaching, you do speaking, and you were talking about a new sort of training that you wanted to do for, yeah.
Yes, I would love to train people in engineering and high tech. After I hang out with them, went to school, married to one, now my daughter wants to go to engineering also. I step back and think about, I'm not trying to stereotype people. There's certain pattern of behavior I noticed by hanging out with this group of people, and I was one, is they are accelerated learner. They want something very deep and concise and very quickly. They don't want any fluff. Just get to the meat. And I would love to use my corporate skill and help them to be more successful. It could be in leadership. It could be in presentation or communication, but very practical to elevate them from where they are to where they want to be in their career.
What do you think, just thinking about these engineers where you've really spent most of your career, what would you say are the 3 areas where you think that they need to close the skill gap the most?
Skill gap. Number one, I had actually a team member that I had to coach personally when I didn't know how to coach, is presentation skill. I had many, I wouldn't say many. I've seen it because I sat in many meetings when I was in corporate, like executive briefing. So imagine you have 1 hour. You have maybe everybody has 5 minutes to present their mission critical engineering technology project. You have 5 minutes to sum up what you have done in the last one. Not just you, could be your whole team. It takes a certain skill and approach and design to design those type of presentations. 5 minutes. So it's not normal communication. So that's one. Second one is, if I think about engineering, design a system that work well for the engineers so people can get the most out of the engineer. It's a system. I back to what I said earlier. It's not the people, it's a system. How work get into your engineer and how work get out of your engineer. Focus on the system. And then the third thing is engineers want to learn. From my corporate experience, I almost never see them going to industry conferences. I'd almost never seen them going to any kind of formal learning because they're very focused. If it doesn't have anything to do with their job, they won't spend the time. They won't. They're very focused. So I would say, explain to them if they want to advance their career. These are the skill you need is required. So it's back to the intrinsic motivation. And once they understand they have to learn, they will learn it. But you have to present the case to them. This is good for you. This is not because corporate or the company want to check these boxes and we need to be trained. This is compliance. They will just roll their eyes and go back to work.
It sounds like one of the main things that you wanna work with engineers on is to broaden their view, get outside of just focusing on what is directly responsible for your role and get a little bit more diverse thinking, right? And learn different areas that could eventually help them overall in their career.
Yes, I would say yes. I think it is easy when I was in corporate. It's just always more work than people. Think about that. Always more work than people. You never have enough time to do like deep thinking, deep work, high precision work, right? Engineering, high tech is all about high precision. So it's not careless work. And people are overwhelmed. People want to do good work, and we really don't have the time to learn unless they have to. It's more about presenting the case to them. This is actually good for you. It's not because the company want to do XYZ. It's for your career, you as a person. So it's more that. And I would predict the future of learning with AI and everything, it's no longer the learning itself. It's more about finding or creating a learning path for individual in corporate. If I think about just engineering and people in high tech, it's the path, it's the individualized learning path for each individual. And then go out and find the different learning to fit that path. Every person's path is different. I know it is unscalable. People don't like to hear it, but at the end of the day, people learn individually. You can't have a learning party. You can, but you cannot.
Brings us right back to where we started. Was one of the first things you said is that everybody has their own way that they learn. You got to find your way.
Yes, you can collaborate. You can be sitting like in the past in college. People love to go to a library and study together. I never study with other people. I can't. That's not my learning style. I have to have complete silence when I learn.
But like you said, everybody learns differently, right?
Exactly. So knowing my style and people ask me, hey, learn with, I can't because I get distracted easily.
Yeah, I agree with you. Everybody has their own learning style. I like to do things on my own sometimes. I know Darren is big on the whole social learning opportunity, right, Darren? That it brings, the connection.
Oh, I recognize that's a big way that people learn is like during work and while they're doing stuff socially. But I think like you guys, I like to learn in my own little vacuum because I get very easily distracted.
Yeah. Now, there's a piece for social learning too, because at work, there are many things. Like, I look at my career, it was not a class. There was no structured class. There was, like, I didn't even know who had the skill. You just learn on the job, like being a parent. So, Damon, I believe your children, like, You can't read a book encyclopedia after your child is born and think, oh, I know everything.
I'm at the earlier phase, right? I got a 6-year-old and a 3-year-old. So right now I'm just trying to get them to stay in the room when I try to read them a book.
Yeah, so it's so that different type of learning. Sometimes you have to learn as you go. You don't even know what you don't know.
And there's nothing wrong with that, not knowing what you don't know. That is what I like to talk about, having courage to try things and do things differently. And you don't know what you don't know. And you're never going to figure that out unless you get out there and ask questions, learn, try, and fail. So, Iky, we're coming up on our time. I know you're over prepared. And so I know you know what our signature question is. So I'm going to throw you a little bit of a curveball. What is some advice, reflecting back, that you'd give your younger self?
Oh, advice? I would say advice. When I'm confused, go within. Don't turn outside. The answer is not outside of me.
So if you're confused, basically go with your intuition, right? Is that basically?
Yes, go deep into myself, my heart and my soul.
Don't look external.
The answer is not outside of me. The answer is never outside of me. It's always inside of me. I did go deep.
You're sure you would say that to your teenage self?
I did calculate the risk at the time. I did go deep, but I didn't choose the path because it didn't make sense at the time. So I did think deeply, and then I made a different choice. That changed my life trajectory.
Interesting. You didn't quite trust is what you felt like yourself. Yeah.
It was too risky. It would probably would not get me the outcome I intended to get. So I chose a path that would get me the outcome I intended to get. Be able to afford Panda Express, for example.
That was my next question. What's your favorite thing at Panda Express? I have a love-hate relationship with it because when my dad was sick in the hospital, I went there every day for 6 months, but I loved it.
I love a lot of their food. They should be paying me for say that, but I like sincerely, I like the mushroom chicken.
Iky, I think this has got to be one of our most fun podcasts that we've had. I'm going to sum it up a little bit here and I'm going to start with this thing called FOPO, which I only just heard about the other day. FOPO is fear of other people's opinion. And I feel like, oh, that's what I have. And what I wish I was is like you. Like you are the antidote to FOPO, because if I'm not mistaken, like, it's not that you don't have perfectionism. Like you do. You really prepare for things, but you've been very willing to throw yourself in the deep end and get yourself in trouble and be uncomfortable, be willing to fail. This is a big part of how you actually learn. No is not an option. Perfectionism is there, but put yourself in a situation where you're just going to have to accept that you don't know everything and failure is going to be okay. And it doesn't matter. You've had an incredible personal story to showcase how this can really create a lot of positive outcomes and has helped you really learn and do a lot in a pretty short period of time. So I think it's great, valuable information. And you're my new role model for being anti-FOPO.
And just going out and trying things. So Iky, before we wrap up, you've shared so much knowledge with us. Is there anything else you'd like to share with our audience?
If people are interested in knowing more about me, go to my website, ikychan.com, ikychan.com. I am, even though I'm not active on social media, I am quite active on LinkedIn. I try to post once a week. So that's what I call active.
There you go. I think you've been an awesome guest and you've been a pleasure to have here. So thank you for being so generous with your time and sharing your story with us. And for our listeners out there, if you enjoyed today's episode, please like it, subscribe on any of your platforms that you're on. And until next time, stay curious and keep growing. Thanks, everybody. Thank you, Iky.